telling of the stories, and then we had a theater. We had a theater right down in our house. We broke up the whole first floor and made it one room and put a theater in there. So the kids used to come in. Then we did a play that dealt with education. I think it was called the Board of Education, that Lydia had gotten the students, the kids in the community. They was like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and their parents came to see them perform, and that was the other thing. You know, you can always get parents when their kids are doing something, and the kids were, you know, doing, and the parents came, and then they got more and more interested. What I'm really trying, what I'm leading up to saying is that you have to do some service to the community. People are not just going to listen to what you say. They're going to have to see. They all from Missouri. You're going to have to show me, you know. Then you're going to have to they're going to have to see something come up out of this. And when they see that, they begin to get more and more concerned about the politics of it. And the other thing is that we were very well, when we got to the politics, because the politics of it didn't really come, because we were artists, and you know, artists are not all together, you know, disciplined like that. I mean, as a matter of fact, that was one of our weaknesses. You know, we were just artists, you know. And after the '67 rebellion, we began to get serious because we found out that somebody might get dead the way this stuff was going, you know, and we were disciplined. Key to that, we became disciplined.
So, because we did a whole bunch of stuff, you know, we touched on, like the 4 areas of politics. Kamozi's talking about alliances, coalitions, community organizing, electoral, and also disruption. Also, the role that the arts play, because in the independent politics workshop, what we have to figure out is not necessarily all the issues, because the other workshops are going to identify that. But politically, we try to identify how to forward the agenda. So Kamozi and Mrs. Baraka is talking about how the arts were used, you know, the posters. You know, I remember reading about the posters of the killer cops and their pictures on it and their names, you know, or, you know, take the man's money but vote for the brother. All of these various things that got your interest. See how this 40 years later and you laugh like, oh, so that would catch your interest now.
The play was Junkies Are Full of Shh. And they do it right in the community. They had the junkies running down. We acted out right in the community. Because, you know, you don't use a lot of abstract language when you're trying to do political agitation. You want it to be immediate so people understand.
So that's what we have to start thinking about is, like, we have a photographer in here, we have a poet, we have an actor, you know, I was a film minor in college, like all these various tools. We can write, we can think. How do we use these tools to talk about education in a way that the people will be receptive to it? Concern yourself with the well-being in a mess, right? They'll come and they'll straight support you, like she said. Reading a book that Kamozi told me to read, I've Got the Light of Freedom by Charles Payne.
Oh yeah, organizing tradition.
And they asked Bob Moses, you know, how do you organize? He said, well, I go to the community and I bounce the ball. And then the kids come around. He said, well, when you talk to parents, and sooner or later the ball hits the curb and rolls up on the porch. And that's how you get to the parents. So this is how we need to be thinking, guys, is in terms of getting the information to the people and also drawing out, like you said, and Mrs. Baraka as well, is that you organize where you are. You know, mothers are going to organize around school stuff. If somebody comes and say, yo, you need to organize, or talk to them about it. So when we're thinking about various tactics of getting things done, let's start chopping it up in terms of how do we get people registered to vote, how do we get people talking about education and economic development, things of that nature, whether it's panels, whether it's, you know, going to people's homes. Because one thing I learned when I ran for district leader off the line is that people really care when you come to their house. They really appreciate that. You know, they'll have 5 kids running around bad. They'll ignore them for a few seconds just to give you some attention because you came to the house and you cared about it. So let's start thinking about how to get the information out and how do we organize around specific issues.
Let me say about strategy and tactics. Sometimes we use a lot of big language about strategy and tactics, right?
That's right.
But in reality, everybody knows strategy and tactics because you play cards, you play games. So what we need to do is we don't want to disarm people and say, oh, you haven't read these great books, right? We start with, what game do you play? You play this game, Bit Whiz, you play checkers, stuff like that, you were doing strategy and tactics, right? You make these moves. So everybody, you go from what's familiar, the game they know how to play. You know how to play football, you know teamwork. You learn some leadership there, right? We're going to take that, and many of our leaders were football players from high school, basketball players, right? So they brought this, value what people know now. She's talking about the women's groups, right? They did it while they were doing the work that they normally did, right? So that's how we imagine strategy tactics are going to take you somewhere else to another world or something like that. No, it's based on doing the stuff you know how to do and just pulling the principles out and say, how does this apply to that? Right. Bob Moses, when he teaches the algebra project, he calls it equivalence, right? When was the last time you had to make do with something? You didn't have what you needed, you didn't have an umbrella. And so we had teachers in the workshop, and they said, oh, we brought it, it's plastic, and we did that. He said, okay. He said, in mathematics and in organizing, making do, what you did that's the principle of equivalence, right? So that's how you go. People say, you don't have enough money. Well, okay, well, you got somebody who's got talent, right? When we didn't have money for our headquarters and things like that, because of the great wisdom of the working class, you had people who work for the public service and stuff like that come turn the lights on. Other people come turn the phone on, right? So if you don't, so it's never like, okay, I don't have this, but if I put these 5 people together, they have the equivalent of that, right? That's you use your imaginative power to make do with what you got, to do what we take care of business and do what we got to do, right?
The other thing, you use the talent that's around you, as you were saying, particularly when you talk about getting money. The fundraisers, mostly when we started out, we didn't have any money, and I'm telling you, the parents would give a nickel or a dime. It didn't seem like a lot, but it added up just to come see their kids perform, just to hear them. And we also took current culture that already existed, like, that was the Motown days. And remember, we changed all the lyrics to those songs. All the, everybody knew, like, what's this song? I want to talk about, what is it? I only know the ones that we made up. The ones we made up. I want to talk about the people. Yeah, yeah. Black, Latin, Asian, white. Yeah, yeah. I can't organize the people. I can't organize the fight. Yeah, yeah. So everybody say united, united. Everybody say the people, the people. Everybody say united, united. And we will win. And we took, that's not the real lyrics to that song. We changed.
Sounded like them.
But we did this collectively. I would give, because we had some great singers in there. Oh my goodness. And we didn't even know this until we would start singing civil rights songs. And I would hear somebody and I said, girl, you can sing. And that's how we put together the Molly singing group.
And that's how they discovered Fannie Lou Hamer.
That's right.
She was a great singer.
That's right. That's right. Singing This Little Light of Mine.
We got a hard time though trying to change some of these songs we got today.
But that's what we did. We changed. All you got to do is the music sound good, and the children know the rhythm. Just change the words. Change the words. That's all you have to do. Just change the words.
So, okay. So now we're talking about, again, we're talking about strategies and tactics to get the people interested in the issues and also to help them organize themselves, because like we're not the great hope of the people are that hope, the mass body of people organize themselves. So we have, like when I taught a class this summer, I taught the kids, they were 6th graders, and I taught them the 4 areas of politics by using, I said, we have an issue, the issue of school lunch. Now, how do you affect change in this issue using the 4 areas of politics? So when we said alliances and coalitions, one of the girls straight off, she said, oh, we can call the football players because they already organized. She was 12 years old. She understood that very easily. You know, I said disruption. They said we can have a food fight. I said, well, you know what it is. But I said you could not eat the food. You could throw the food in the garbage until they give you better food. And the demands came up. We want the food to be cooked on the premises because it's better that way. You know, so like the answers are there. They have the answers all in their head. It's just trying to give it a little bit of structure, asking them the questions to draw that out. So, and I think that we can come out of this workshop with some ideas to get the conversation started. And I think one big opportunity we do have, whether you're a supporter of the president or not, the president got the people talking about politics that never spoke about politics. You go into the barbershop, people who never talked about politics, they're talking about it now because Barack Obama is the president. So, can we use the energy from that election to register new voters and then give them information about local issues?
You know, I should say this. Fran Fox Piven, who wrote the book Poor People's Movement, taught me this lesson the other day. I felt kind of dumb. Voting right, we have this problem with voter suppression, right? In American history, it used to be you didn't register to vote. In the 1800s, you showed up and you voted, right? It's after the Civil War and Black Reconstruction when Black people started to vote. They said, oh, we need to have people registered. And the whole thing about registration was to suppress the number of votes. Then you're going to have qualifications. Used to be, I'm breathing. I happen to be here, right? Let me vote, right? So what is this whole thing? You show up, they say, well, you don't really exist. Then you know you're in the graveyard, right? So I had never thought about that. She said all the reason they even set it up, because it used to be, it was almost universal vote. People voted. I mean, if it was legal for you to vote. Matter of fact, in New Jersey, it's a strange thing. Even slaves and women voted in the 1804 election. And they didn't like the way they voted, so they made sure women didn't vote no more, and the slaves couldn't vote, right? So a lot of this is about, but I think we got to understand, why is it they don't want you to vote? Well, voting in itself might be corny. But the reason they didn't want you to vote was so they can rape you. You see what I'm saying? If they want to lower your wages illegally, right? If they want to, break the contract with you, well, if you can't vote, you can't elect judges, the whole 9 yards, right? So basically, to take away your right to vote is beyond electing a candidate. It's about self-defense, right? And so they want to render you with no defense. So, and then what they do to us once they took the vote, they lynched us, they terrorized us. Then you make money. They say, okay, it's 100 pounds of cotton, and that's 5 pounds of cotton. You see? So it affects everything you do. So the voting rights is not for the president or the governor, it's for you. And that's what the reason. That's what they want. They want to take your guard down so they can just punch you in the face without any defense. And what did Frederick Douglass used to say? Vote is like a stick in the jungle.
But I think you forget one thing about the wages and stuff. The word for unions, they keep talking about this middle class. If it wasn't for unions, there would be no middle class.
Oh yeah.
Because voting did not get us higher wages. Voting did not get us organized. Unions did that. If anything, you're going to ask for anything to happen, we're going to have to make sure that the union movement does not die. Voter suppression. No, we ain't going. I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to allow that stuff to happen again, because we went through the Civil War. We were there, we were around there when black people couldn't vote. They didn't care if he was a man or a woman. Because around the woman question, when the suffragists went out to vote, black women still couldn't vote. When white women got the right to vote, we could not vote because we were black. So now the truth of the matter is, voting is one thing, but the union movement is another thing, and those things have to go as a people, particularly as poor people. And another thing that never comes up, particularly when we're trying to organize white workers and white people who mean well in terms of wanting a better community. We never talk about indentured servitude and what they had to go through and how we had a rebellion. Chattel slaves and indentured servants united.
Bacon's rebellion.
That's what I'm trying to talk about here. And in order to organize, because anybody who believes the way this country is going, we live in a multinational state. We have to not only begin to talk about a black president. We got to start talking about a progressive president. We got to have organization where we look for not color but class stance. Whose side are you on, and who are you willing to fight for, and who are you willing to die for? Who are you willing to live for? But we haven't got there yet. Because some people, the minute they get power, the first thing they do is start looking down on those of us who are unemployed and out of work. And it's they who took us out of work. And it's they who suppressed us. So I think until we can talk about class, and until we can talk about the unity of the majority of the people in this country, we're going to be right where we are talking about voter suppression, because they ain't even want white workers. Are you kidding me? Only men with money. Am I right?
That's right.
So